Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Intro to Sage Intacct webinar this afternoon. I'm Gareth Bazant. I am the head of Sage Intacct operations here at Solutions for Accounting, and over the next 45 minutes or so, we're just going to have a quick look at Sage Intacct, get a bit of a feel for how the system works and how you can use it. Okay, for those of you who perhaps don't know who Solutions are, just a quick sort of 30-second introduction to us. We are based in the Midlands in the UK. We've got two offices, one in Nottingham and one in Derby. Our Nottingham office is primarily focused on our accounting systems that we look after. We have a lot of customers at the Sage 50 level, Sage 200 and also Sage Intacct as well. We've got upwards of about 50 members of staff across our two sites, a team of developers as well, in-house developers who also write bespoke software solutions for integrations into Sage 50, Sage 200 and to Intacct. They also offer solutions for our CRM offerings. We look after, implement and support Act CRM, Sage CRM and Salesforce, and again our team of developers are very involved in customizing those systems to make them work better for our customers. Alongside of developers, we have a team of support technicians, again across the whole range of our platforms, Sage 50, 200 Intacct, and on the CRM side, based out of our offices in Derby, looking after Act CRM, Sage CRM and Salesforce. Sage Intacct is a new offering from Sage to the UK, although Intacct itself has actually been around for about 20 years. It was developed in the US and acquired by Sage in 2017. It's always been a cloud-based platform. It's not one of these systems that started off on-premise and then at some point was migrated across to cloud. It has been cloud from the very first line of code that was written. There's a single code base which is shared across the whole platform worldwide now, and that is updated 4 times a year. So one of the many advantages to cloud computing is, of course, maintenance of the system is taken out of your hands. There's nothing you have to worry about. So there's 4 updates a year, offering constantly new features and improvements to the system, and that is rolled out by Intacct. You don't have to do anything. It's done on a Friday night and the systems are down for the matter of about half an hour while that is taken care of. It's the same code base whether you're using the data centers in the US or the UK or Australia, which is where the main data centers currently reside. Sage Intacct is built on a best of breed approach, which basically means it is a financial management system. First and foremost, all it does is around financial management. Intacct wants to be the best financial management platform it can be, and as a result of that, it's designed to work with other best of breed solutions. A good example of this is Salesforce. Salesforce is a best of breed CRM system. Again, it does what it does and it does it very well. First and foremost, it's a CRM. It's not trying to be a financial management platform, but of course the two systems do need to talk to each other, and that's where the integrations that are on offer with Intacct are really powerful. It's a very open API. You can get to it very easily by going to developer.intacct.com. You don't need to be a user of the system. You don't need to log into anything. The API is there, ready and available for anyone to look at. The advantage of this, of course, is if you've got your own custom systems which aren't already integrated with Intacct, your developers or our developers can work to create that integration. Most integrations are actually written by third-party vendors. The only one which is written by Sage Intacct themselves is the connector to Salesforce, and that, along with the system, is maintained and updated in those quarterly releases of the product. The system is built around a very modular approach. So if you look at the image on the screen, you have got a core financials platform which sits at the centre of everything that's being done. And as you expect, that covers off all your basic accounting functions. You've got a general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, or sales ledger, purchase ledger. And then you've got some order processing systems. On the sales side, you've got order management. And on the purchasing side, purchase order side of things, you've got purchasing. Of course, you've got a cash management system to manage your cash book and bank accounts, which includes abilities to link to your bank directly through Sage's banking cloud and pull transactions down directly from your bank. That is all underpinning a very robust reporting and dashboard system, which we'll look at in a moment. Another icon on the core financials side of things is Collaborate. Now, Collaborate is a tool for talking and discussing absolutely anything within Intacct. It can be a transaction or a purchase invoice or a customer or anything. And the idea is that the users of Intacct can have a conversation about whichever object it may be, and then that information is held in the system for as long as the system is in existence. Very useful for changing budgets, for example. You can look back 6 months later, why did we change that figure in the budget? With Collaborate, you're going to have the information there, the conversation, if you like, that went on between the parties as to what needed changing and why it was changed. Collaborate itself is actually written using Salesforce's Chatter system. It resides within Salesforce as what's called a shadow organization within Salesforce. So you don't get full-blown Salesforce with it. You can't access that Chatter system through Salesforce, but it actually resides on their platform. And that's, if you are a Salesforce user, you'll probably be familiar with Chatter and the functionality and advantages of that. It's exactly the same thing. And in fact, if you are using Intacct and Salesforce together, Chatter and Collaborate are effectively merged together into your Salesforce Chatter. So again, that is going to be available for your Salesforce users and your Intacct users to see what's going on with particular transactions or customers, etc. Around the core financial system, there are a number of add-on modules, and when I say a number, I mean about 50 variants of different add-ons. There's add-ons to control your fixed assets, there's add-ons to control your spend management, which will in real time compare your budget with your actual spend, and if you are processing something like a purchase order at the time, it's going to look at that order and say, if you were to place this order, it's going to push you over the budget and give you warnings and either allow or disallow you to proceed with that. There are systems for managing your vendor payments, there's systems for managing your project accounting, and one of the flagship modules, if you like, from Intacct is the contract subscription and billing module. And what that does is allows you to manage primarily the accounting side of your contracts. So the line items on the contract and how you are billing those, whether it's all up front at the start of a contract, whether it's periodically through the contract. The system can handle different percentages at different times. It doesn't have to be straight line. And that is all separate to a revenue recognition system, which again is built into these modules. So with the example of a support contract, you might want to bill it all up front at the beginning of 12 months, but then not recognise the revenue for that straight away. You might want to recognise that in 12 equal chunks across the year. So the system can handle that. You've got that idea of a completely separate billing schedule for when your customers are being invoiced and paying you, and you have got your revenue recognition schedule, and they're completely detached from each other. The project accounting module, which I mentioned, again, that's a very powerful tool, and again is centered on the accounting surrounding a project. It's not a project resource allocation system, although there are elements of that interleaved into some of the more sort of sophisticated levels of the module. but it does allow you to, again, manage your billing and revenue recognition on projects. And there's a lot of very deep functionality around the billing, whether it's a fixed fee bill, whether it's a time and expense type project, or a mixture of the two on the same project. There's a lot of functionality around that. And again, the billing is completely separate to the revenue management. Another one of the key modules for Intacct is, of course, the inventory management module. That allows you to control stock levels, again, focused on the accounting side of things, but it does allow you to have stock in multiple locations, bin items. There is functionality along with some third-party add-ons for barcoding, and of course reorder levels and sort of an element of planning around that. It's not a full-blown manufacturing system. Again, the best of breed approach here is that it's focusing on the accounting rather than anything more detailed, which is where the marketplace we'll discuss in a moment comes into play. Global consolidations is the last of the modules I'm going to mention today. That is a system for amalgamating information from several different entities or subsections of your business into one consolidated entity. The real power of Intacct on that system is that it handles multi-currency very, very well. So if you've got an entity which is in the UK and operates in a base currency of sterling, and then you've got another entity which is in Europe and operates in euros, when it comes to consolidation, there are rules and procedures around how you manage the exchange rates for your various transactions across that period that you're consolidating. The system effectively does that automatically for you, meaning that very quickly and very easily you get a consolidated view of your system and your company. I've mentioned it a few times, the marketplace or third-party add-ons. And this is where the best of breed approach really comes into its own. The idea is that there are some 230 odd integrations on the marketplace, and they have been written by vendors or by business partners to integrate certain systems with Intacct. The link is there on the slide. And it will be sent out to you after the webinar as well, where you can actually go and look at that marketplace yourself and see what integrations are already there. The likes of ADP have got integrations for Intacct, and there's a number of connectors to various CRM systems, payment management systems. There's also integrations with manufacturing systems, more advanced and sophisticated project management systems, which are going to handle your resource planning for you. There's marketplace partners for timesheet entry and expense management. That's another big player. Again, it's enhancing the functionality within excuse me, within the projects module of Intacct. But there's, as I say, a huge number of those, and that's not the end of the story with integrations. Like I've said, the API is very open, it's accessible by anybody, and as a result of that, developers like our team are able to integrate any systems you might have, as long as they can communicate through an API. Anyway, that was a very quick snapshot into what Intacct is. I'm sure you're keen now to actually see the product in action. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'll just switch my screens around. Okay, so this is Intacct. As we've said, it's a true cloud solution. So you access it through a web browser. It does work with all the common web browsers, although in our experience it does work best with Firefox or Chrome or Microsoft Edge. Obviously, Internet Explorer, as it was, is being phased out by Microsoft. So whilst you can get the system to work on it, some things don't look or feel quite right. So I'm using Chrome today. Like I said, it works fine on any of the sort of main browsers. The system is designed to work on a desktop, So although you don't have any software to install or any requirement to be on a particular network, it is designed with the user being on a desktop in mind. Therefore, the page layouts, etc., are optimized for desktop usage rather than mobile usage. It's a very easy system to navigate through. This is a standard sort of home page, if you like. You can define for a user which page they come to when they first log in, and that's particularly useful when you look at the dashboards, which are here. Dashboards allow you to visualize any reports within the system in a very clean and very easy to understand manner. You can define different dashboards for different people and control different access to certain dashboards. So this dashboard that's been mocked up here is for a financial controller. It's some very relevant real-time information that a financial controller might want to see. Another dashboard for perhaps a CFO is going to be looking at a completely different set of information. It's taking more of a high-level view across the company and looking at, I don't know, revenue year on year or revenue by a particular channel. These can all be customized and are designed to be customized by the end user. It's not like a system where you have to write a load of JavaScript in the background to get these dashboards to work. The dashboards and the reports are written with the idea that the end users, yourselves, would be able to create new reports, create new dashboards, create new components for dashboards, and manage those dashboards yourself without the need for, you know, a project in itself just to write dashboards. I'm just going to pop back to the controller dashboard. And you'll be able to see here on a number of the reports, you've got some drillable functionality. So anything that's blue text is drillable. And for this, for example, we've opened up the P&L. Everything is grouped together, actually down to almost a one-to-one relationship on this case between a nominal code and a category. But if you wanted to look at all the transactions relating to that particular nominal code, again, you can drill into it and see all that information. Again, drill in and see the individual journal entry that that particular transaction relates to. Right, so let's get all the way out. The reports and the dashboards are built on a dimensional accounting system rather than what you might call a traditional accounting nominal structure, where you've got a nominal account and then a department and then another level down for a cost centre. What Intacct does is uses dimensions instead of that tiered approach, which gives you a lot more granularity to your reporting. To put that into a practical scenario, a product or an item, for example, can be a dimension. Excuse me. I should have said at the start of this, my 3-year-old's been very kind in sharing the cold that he's acquired from nursery. So I am prone to a bit of coughing. So if I do mute myself, I will be back. It's just because I'm needing to clear my throat a little. So yes, the dimensional structure for something like a product, you can use that dimension to then carve your data how you want to see it, rather than having a large number of different nominal codes for your various different product types. You can group those those dimensions together, a bit like a filter when you're reporting in Excel, for example. You can say, show me all the transactions where just that product or just these products are in scope for the report. You can do the same. A department is just another type of dimension. So again, you can do a departmental report where you're effectively filtering your transactions by saying which transactions relate to this one department or another department. You also have the ability to do some conditional formatting. On here, it's if you're over a certain level or under a certain level, change the color of the box. And obviously on these KPI type reports here, if it's good, make it green. If it's bad, make it red, that sort of thing, or arrows up, arrows down. Again, this is all built with the end user in mind. Okay. So just to show the same sort of thing within a report, let's go for a profit and loss detailed report. Obviously, you can output that report in a number of different ways. I'm just going to show it on screen here. And again, you've just got that idea of a drillable report. You can define which sections you want to be expanded or sort of summarised, and then once you get into the report, you can then expand things out as you wish. So again, these groupings are all based around those dimensions. So, for example, this category here, general administrative expense, what you're effectively saying is show me everything which is in the office supplies category. And in this case, there's only one nominal code in there, but there could be several nominal codes in there. And you're just saying roll it all up and summarise it in one for me. Okay, as I said, they're built with the idea that the end user can edit these reports. If any of you are familiar with the Sage Report Designer that you use in Sage 50 or Sage 200, you'll know that it's not easy, or not necessarily easy, to make any amendments to your reports. With Intacct, it's very much a user-defined interface here. So you've got a very straightforward, what do you want to use on your rows? What do you want to use in your columns? So my rows in this case are my categories that are grouped together for my profit and loss. And as I said, you are defining whether you want it to be detailed or you want it to be summarised. And you could also expand out by dimension. And this is where that granularity comes in, because you can say, I want to take my customer dimension, I actually want to show it all by customer. And that's going to give you a very long list of customers, but detailing everything in your sales account by those individual customers. On my column side, I'm then saying what I want to display for those particular rows. And this is generally where you're going to be putting your financial information in. So you're going to be looking at your actual accounts and the current month. But then you could add another column in where you want to go one period prior, another column in to go two prior periods, and so on and so forth. You can put a column in for your budget, so you can do budget versus actual. You can do calculations based on two columns, so what's the variance between my actual and my budgeted costs. And you can again expand these out by dimensions to give you much more granularity. The ability to filter, obviously, again with its dimensions in mind, you can say I only want to look at a particular department or a particular location. We mentioned in the consolidation, you've got this idea of you could have separate entities for different areas, and you might only want to report on one of those or a couple of those rather than the entire organisation. Okay. On the matter of entities, at the moment we're looking at everything from what's called top level, so that's like your top co. It's rolling up all the figures for a shared chart of accounts for all my different entities. USA, holding company USA, Canada, UK and Ireland. If I wanted to report on just one of those, I could actually predefine that in the filters when I'm running the report, or if I was in just that one entity, I'm only going to see the information specific to that one entity. I'm not going to see the information relating to the UK entity or the Ireland entity. That's particularly relevant, of course, when you're talking about user access and permissions. You can define in the system which users are able to see which entities and operate in which entities, and likewise say which users are able to see which report or which dashboard, and that's the same across the entire product, whether they can edit something or can access something else. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is quickly run through a purchase ordering system just to show you a few bits of how you're going to use the system. It's very much a point and click type user interface. The entire system's built around being able to configure the system rather than having a load of code to customize the system, and that's through the settings all the way through to actually using the system. So we're signed in now as Emma, who's a controller, a day-to-day user, and as such she's got permissions to do a lot of work in here. So we're going to start by creating a purchase requisition. So it's all quite intuitive end user type interface. So let's do a requisition for Staples. Once I select a supplier, a number of default pieces of information can be filled out because you link that to the supplier. For example, the department, when you select Staples, it's automatically picked a department of admin. So let's just put office supplies in here. We're going to leave our location as the location we're working in, USA. You could tag a project or a contract here as well if you needed to, or a particular segment or channel. These are actually custom fields and objects which you can add in to the system to tailor it to your own specific needs. Quite often you'll have a sales representative, or region is quite a common one as well, and you can use that then in your reporting to break everything down and say, I want to look at all my sales for the Northwest or the Midlands or both. Again, using that idea of the dimension being the filter that you can then apply to your transactions. So I'm just going to pop a price in here and submit that. There are a number of approval processes within Intacct. There's actually 7, depending on which part of the system you're in, and they all operate slightly differently. There is a piece of work ongoing at the moment to sort of centralize all of that and take the best bits from the various approval processes and give you one unified approach to approvals, but at the moment it's a bit sporadic. So purchase requisitions is quite a robust system. You can say set an approver based on the line manager of the person submitting the request, or based on a value, and then you can say if it's up to a certain amount you need one person to approve it, if it's above that amount you need several people to approve it, and so on and so on. So you can build up an approval workflow to approve a purchase requisition. So at the moment we've got it very simply set up that Emma needs her requisitions approving by her line manager, who is Tom. And if I just move over here to another tab, I'm actually logged in now as Tom. So this is what Tom can see. It is a different dashboard to Emma's dashboard. He's actually a different type of user. We've got a number of different user types within the system. Emma's a full-blown user. She can transact with all the nominal ledgers. She can post to the ledgers, and she can, enter transactions, etc., etc. Tom's actually what's called an employee user. So whilst he can see everything and he can approve requisitions, he can't actually post anything to the nominal ledger. Okay, so there's a number of different types of license between the two extremes. And the idea is in scoping and working out the right solution for yourselves, we would then be able to identify what number of users you need at different levels to obviously make that the best solution for you. As you can see on Tom's dashboard here, we've actually got the approved purchasing transactions component, and if I just open that up, you'll see a couple of submissions from Emma that we've done previously, which are still to be approved. And then we've got this one is the one that we've just created now. So Tom's able to view that. And that goes straight into that purchase requisition as we've just filled out. He can assess all the data and then, if necessary, approve it and write a comment if required. Okay, see it's now dropped off that list, although we could go back and view it all if we wanted to. You see it's changed its state from submitted to pending, and that means it's now a requisition which has been approved and it's pending creation or conversion to a purchase order. So we'll pop back in as Emma now and see that we have got, just a quick refresh here. See that we've now got our requisition which has no longer submitted, is now in a pending state. And I've now got the ability to convert that requisition. And convert gives you the ability to change it into a purchase order. These transaction definitions, again, are fully customizable to suit the needs of the business using Intacct. So a transaction definition is effectively a list of posting rules to say, when this transaction is posted, you need to do X, Y, Z with it. It can be posted to the purchase ledger or sales ledger. It could be to post to the general ledger. It could be to affect your stock on hand if it was a receiver or like a goods received or a goods dispatch note. And you can define those. Furthermore, you can use various groupings and general ledger item groupings to say, this particular type of item needs to post to this nominal code and this other type of item needs to post to a different nominal code, and you can build all of that in the background of the system, meaning that the end users don't need to think necessarily about where the postings need to go. They can concentrate on creating that particular transaction, purchase order or purchase invoice or what have you, and then the posting rules in the background take care of where it all needs to go. Okay, so this requisition we are going to convert to a purchase order. And that process effectively copies and pastes the information from the requisition to the order. You've got that traceability here all the way through the purchase order system. You're going to be able to look back at the history of the transaction to see where it came from. Obviously, there's elements of the order that can now be amended. If perhaps it wasn't the right item or you needed to change the supplier, you can do that. As I say, it's a copy and paste type function here. It's not set in stone. So I'm just going to go straight ahead and submit that purchase order. Now that's pending, so we haven't got approval set up at this point. What we're going to do is convert that straight to a vendor invoice or a supplier invoice. Again, it's taking what you've got on the order, copying and pasting it into a invoice. And when I post this, so we've got, this is a smart rule. It's effectively a verification tool for your information. When you get to the point of an invoice, on this particular configuration, we've said you need to supply a document number before you can post it. So I'm just going to pop a number in there and then we'll post that through. You do have the attachments option here as well. So if you do receive an invoice through, you want to save that against the transaction, you can do. Again, there's an approval process for actually making a payment to a supplier. So you might want to attach your invoices so that when it comes to approving those payments, you can quickly and easily see what invoice it actually relates to. Okay, so we've now gone all the way through to being an invoice. And if we just have a quick look at this, we'll see all the information has been pulled all the way through. Obviously, we've got our office supplies at £500 with our department at our location of USA. If we have a look at the history, you're able to see who created the transaction, who modified it, who the supplier is, etc. But more importantly, down here, you've got the paper trail, if you like, all the way from that requisition through to that order and then to that invoice. So if you wanted to go back to that requisition to have a look at it, you can go straight from here. You don't have to go all the way back out to the requisitions to go back in again. And again, that's everything exactly as it was when we processed it. Because we've got to the point of an invoice where the accounts payable is going to be affected, you will now see that our posting rules on that transaction have said, when you post this, we need to put something into AP. So when we go into here, we'll see that an accounts payable invoice has been created for us. And again, it's linked all the way back down to that very starting point. It's linked to that particular invoice. And from there, you can get into the history of everything. You can also have a look at approval history at any point. Because we've not got approvals turned on in AP, we're not seeing that. But if we went back to our invoice here, and we look at our approval history on here, we'll go all the way back to, it's hiding from me now, isn't it? We'll find our approval history somewhere. Okay, anyway, now that it's in AP, we're now able to obviously post a payment to that supplier and simply pay purchase invoice. There are date ranges and predefined filters you can set up here if you wanted to do a payment run for a particular grouping of suppliers. And what the system will do then is it will actually go out and it will look for all of the outstanding invoices for payment. So if we were to do it just for Staples, for example, we're only going to see the invoice for Staples, which is actually this line here. Set your header information up here, whether it's cash, check, credit card. Again, the system will use the Sage Banking Cloud, so can connect up to banks for like e-banking functionality. At the moment, it's very much like with the other Sage products, the idea that you process your payments, you can add them to an outbox, and then when you're ready, you can tell the system to create your BACS CSV file, download that to your machine, upload it to your bank, and make that payment. With the improvements that are happening with the Open Banking API, the intention is that there will be a much deeper trust relationship between your Intacct system and your bank, which will hopefully mean that you'll be able to post information directly out for payments in the same way that you can get transactions in for the cash book for reconciliation. For now, I'm just going to pay it as cash. Payment's been processed, nice and straightforward. Okay, the order entry system, which is your sales order process, is very similar. You've got the idea that you can create your various different transaction definitions. Certain definitions can be converted to other definitions, and then each different definition has its own set of posting rules. And likewise, if you were to create a sales invoice, you're going to see that reflected in your accounts receivable. But for now, I'm just going to pop into here and create a sales invoice. Very similar sort of screen as before. Let's do it to Acme. Headline information you can fill in. You can say some things are mandatory, some things are optional, and you can use those smart events, again, customize them yourselves to say, for a particular scenario, we need certain information. For example, you might have a customer that insists on having a reference number populated when you send them an invoice. If that was the case, you could use a smart rule to say, when the customer name is Acme, this field cannot be blank. And then you can tell the smart rule to either warn the user, you are trying to process this without a reference number and then allow them to continue, or you can actually give an error, i.e. you cannot post this until you put a reference number in. So for this particular invoice, let's just pop a professional services invoice in there. Okay, so again, we've created an invoice. We can go in, we can edit, we can view that invoice, or we can process a payment. So these overview screens are very useful for day-to-day processing, although don't give you the full story for all the options available to you. So for example here, we're just going to go and receive a payment. Again, with the e-banking components that are available, you can have a transactional list appear in your cash book where you can say, oh, I've received a payment from Acme, I need to now go and receive that, and you can do that on the fly from the cash book screen, create new customer receipt, and then it's going to bring you into a screen similar to this. Obviously we select our customer, we select which bank account it's going into, and what the payment method is, receipt date, payment date. If I just say receive a full payment there, it's going to fill out all this information for me, and I'll just say received £1,000 or $1,000 in this case, and then that transaction is going to be available for you on your bank reconciliation then. If I wanted to create statements for customers, you can do that as a bulk process, or you could even just filter it down to an individual if you wanted to. The system will email directly out, and that's the same for all of these different systems, invoices, statements, credit notes, correspondence. You can have the system email stuff out for you, or you can print and you can define which is which. When the system says print, it doesn't mean it's going to print it out for you on your printer locally, so obviously it's a cloud-based system. What it basically means, it's going to create a PDF for you to then print. So for example here, you'll have to forgive the terrible nature of this statement layout. The layouts themselves you can actually modify in Word, and then use the idea of a merge field similar to you would do with like a mail merge document in Word, and then you upload that into the system, and then it picks up those merge fields and fills it out for you. That's the same for all your different transactional types, so your purchase invoices, credit notes, etc. Okay. Just to kind of finish off that process, if we have a look in our cash management and pop into our bank reconciliations, need to do this at top level actually, because the bank account is not owned by that particular entity. So I will just pop into here. We'll be able to select our account. And then you'll see your list of transactions ready to match off. So there's our AP payment there that we've just made. If I was matching that off in this manual method, I would tick that off and tick off all the ones that relate to the piece of paper in front of me, and away I go. You would notice when I began that process, there was the option to import. So that's if you've not got a full e-banking system available to you because your bank doesn't support it yet. You can actually import a CSV file, and the various different CSV files, obviously different formats for different banks. That's where the power of Sage Banking Cloud comes into play, because you can use their understanding and their knowledge of all these different formats and layouts to make sure that what you're importing does actually match with what it should do. And that's the same with the BACS payments going out as well. Different banks have different formats. The idea is that the system creates the right format for you, rather than you having to open a CSV and move columns around and add extra bits of information just because that's what your bank requires. Okay. This particular company that we're using here has got a number of other modules set up. For time's sake today, I'm not going to go into those. We hope to be able to do further webinars, and we'll be guided by yourselves to some regard on which modules you might want to see a bit more information on. We've overviewed some of the main modules at the start of this webinar, but can do some more in-depth webinars on specific modules if you do want those. We have got a Q&A session running here. I know that a few people have been posting questions. What we intend to do is follow up this webinar with one, a link to the recording, and two, answers to any of those questions. And if you have got any particular modules or areas of the system you would like to see covered in more detail in future webinars, please do let us know and we can do that. Okay, I hope you found your first glimpse potentially of Intacct interesting, and if you do want to learn any more about the product or have any particular questions about the functionality or anything like that, please do feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you very much.